This video is a showcase of the PlayStation 2. I'll show you several games running on my own PlayStation 2 with gameplays captured in the highest quality possible. And this video is organized in chapters and it is divided in 3 parts. First, I'll talk a bit about the 6th generation of consoles, then I'll explain the equipment I've used to capture the gameplays, and then I'll share lots of gameplay captures with you. So let's start talking about the PS2. It's the best-selling console of all time. It sold around 160 million units. It was originally released in March of 2000 in Japan, and it arrived in North America in October of 2000. From then on, it was released in several other countries and continents. The PlayStation 2 is a 6th generation console, and its competitors were the Dreamcast, the GameCube, and the first Xbox. The Dreamcast arrived first on the market at the end of '98 in Japan and at the end of '99 in the Americas and Europe. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Dreamcast, and I think it's a shame it wasn't a success because it had a great potential and a great game library. After the Dreamcast, the PlayStation 2 arrived in the market, as I said before, in 2000, and it had a huge advantage when compared to the Dreamcast. It was also a DVD player. For many people, it made more sense buying a PlayStation 2 instead of a DVD player, and that really boosted its sales at the time. And because of that, I wonder, maybe the story would have been different for the Dreamcast if it used and played DVDs instead of GD-ROMs, but anyway, after the PlayStation 2, the GameCube was launched. It was released in 2001, first in Japan in September, and in the following months in the rest of the world. In fact, the GameCube and the first Xbox came out practically together in North America. The Xbox, being from Microsoft, an American company, launched first in North America. The only console from its generation that did so actually, since the Dreamcast, the PlayStation 2, and the GameCube all came out first in Japan. With the Xbox, it was launched in North America on November 15th, 2001, and the GameCube launched in North America 3 days later, on November 18th, 2001. In terms of power, the PlayStation 2 was more powerful than the Dreamcast, but weaker than the GameCube and the Xbox. At the time, the difference in power was not that noticeable. The CRT displays really masked the differences, at least for me. The game in this generation that really reflects the difference in power is Soul Calibur 2, which is clearly superior on the Xbox. It actually runs at 720p on the Xbox, while it's limited to 480p on both the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube. Regarding games, the PlayStation 2 has a very rich library with more than 4,000 games released. It was on the PlayStation 2 that God of War first appeared, where Grand Theft Auto became a third-person open-world game, and where Final Fantasy began to have voice acting. A very relevant aspect about the PlayStation 2 that is related to the content of this video is the fact that it's a console from the analog era. It was made to be played on CRT TVs, and most of its games only run in 480i. What I'm going to present you in this video doesn't reflect the look and feel of a PlayStation 2 game in the 2000s, it reflects how the console looks on current equipment, on current displays. Let's remember that CRT TVs merge adjacent pixels, and this generates the impression of more colors and more resolution, with a less pixelated look. So now let's move on to the equipment I've used to record the gameplays. I used a PlayStation 2 Slim version, which I purchased used in Brazil. It doesn't have any graphic mods, but it does have a mod chip, which was actually quite useful since I played some Japanese games for this video. And regarding this footage, this B-roll of my PS2, guys, I swear my PlayStation 2 is clean, but when recording it, it looks like it was just found in a dumpster, but seriously, it's clean, look at this picture. Regarding the games, I play them with my childhood PlayStation 2 controller. And I know this isn't too relevant, but I wanted to mention it just so you know that you can play PlayStation 2 with wireless controllers using adapters such as the Blue Retro. For audio and video, I used an HD Retrovision Component Cable. To convert the component signal, I used a RetroTink 4K, and in the Tink 4K, I used a modified version of Wobbling Pixel's Razor Sharp profile. And to capture the gameplay, I used an Elgato 4K Pro capture card. All captures were recorded in 4K, and I highly recommend you watch this video in 4K since YouTube allocates a better codec and a higher bitrate to 4K content. Even though the games I'll be showing you run in 480i and 480p, it does make a difference if you watch this video in 4K. A feature I love in the PlayStation 2 is its backwards compatibility, so I decided to record some Resident Evil 2 to show how a PlayStation 1 game runs on the PlayStation 2. I love the opening cutscene of the game, and the gameplay is amazing. It's really great, with lots of suspense and horror. The game's puzzles are very fun and interesting to solve, and I also love the tension due to the enemies and the camera positioning. It's a constant in the gameplay. And also the game's story is super interesting, and this game is a timeless work of art. But the emphasis of this video are the PlayStation 2 games, so let's focus on that. And I'll start with Resident Evil Code Veronica. This is a game that doesn't run with progressive signal, it only runs in 480i, but it still looks great in the captures. This game follows the style of the first 3 Resident Evil games with tank controls and mostly fixed camera angles, and I'm saying mostly fixed because this one was the first main Resident Evil with 3D scenarios. The initial trilogy had pre-rendered backgrounds, but with Code Veronica the scenarios are actually rendered in real time. So even though the camera is at a fixed angle, sometimes it moves. The game is very intriguing, as I said, it looks beautiful in the gameplay captures, and because I also have this game for the Dreamcast, I decided to record a comparison between the PlayStation 2 and the Dreamcast versions of this game. Although the PlayStation 2 is more powerful than the Dreamcast, in general, I think Dreamcast games look better on modern TVs and monitors. And in this comparison, you can see the strong motion blur that is typical of the PS2, very present in Claire's movements on the PlayStation 2 version, while the Dreamcast version is clearer and sharper, at least in my perception. Now let's move to one of the most famous games of the PlayStation 2. This is Gran Turismo 4. And it's very famous not only because of its quality, but also because of the 1080i mode. But the truth is, it makes more sense to play this game in 480p, especially in modern displays. I used the director mode for some of the captures so that the car would move with more fluidity in a smoother way. And this game is really beautiful, it's impressive for its time. I captured 2 very iconic tracks. I started with a Rio track, Laguna Seca, which is a super technical circuit, the type of which I call a 3D circuit, because elevation plays a very important role into it. It goes up, you can go down, it has banked corners. Laguna Seca is really an incredible track. And then I captured an original Gran Turismo track, High Speed Ring, which I find phenomenal. It doesn't feature big changes in elevation, but it does have a really cool layout and also super fast banked corners. And then I also decided to play some rally on the game on the Swiss Alps circuit. In terms of gameplay, honestly I prefer the first Gran Turismo, but still, Gran Turismo 4 is a milestone for the gaming industry and it's a very special game.
Beast, I will send you back to the depths of Hades!
Obviously, I had to capture God of War. Such an awesome game. Here we have the first game in the franchise, the beginning of one of the most important IPs in the gaming industry. This is a game that has a 480p mode and it looks great and it's phenomenal in terms of gameplay and story. I captured only the beginning of the game for this video. And I think it's important to emphasize that this game it's not just another hack and slash. It has an awesome story and it shines not only in combat, but also in exploration and puzzle solving. Amazing game. Now, a work of art by Square Enix, the first RPG I played that featured voice acting instead of just written texts.
Cheer for me.
2, 3. Teach us how to blitz!
This is Final Fantasy X, featured here via the international version, which I imported from Japan many years ago. This is a game that only runs in 480i, and because of that, sometimes it looks a bit weird on modern displays, but it does look great. I played this game enough to get to Beast 8, because the visuals there are amazing and I love the soundtrack in Beast 8. It's wonderful, so wonderful that it actually played at my wedding. Nowadays it's more accessible to play this game through the remastered versions, but many people actually prefer the PlayStation 2 version because of the character models. But in the end, there's no wrong way to play Final Fantasy X, so play however you prefer. PlayStation 2 original hardware, PlayStation 2 emulation, remastered versions, whatever you prefer works. The other single-player Final Fantasy game on the PlayStation 2 was Final Fantasy XII, which is one of the most beautiful games on the console. The graphics in this game are very impressive, but it's another game without a 480p mode. It only runs at 480i. Still, look at how beautiful the captures turned out, and at the time of its release, this game was actually criticized by a lot of fans because it didn't feature a turn-based battle system. Personally, I really like the combat system in this game, which mostly takes place in real time. Generally, we give orders to the main character, while the rest of the group acts following a behavior that we determine through a system that the game calls the Gambit system. The soundtrack of this game is awesome and I love the sound effects, and also even the voice acting in this game is something I enjoy.
You should get back to Miguel's place, Kites. Aren't you running errands for him?
Oops, totally forgot.
And also the settings, the scenarios as a whole are quite incredible. I actually remember that when I was first playing it, I was very impressed by the size of its cities and the huge amount of NPCs wandering around. There were so many NPCs that we couldn't even talk to everyone, just to the NPCs with specific icons. Nowadays, it's easier to play it through the remastered versions, but the PlayStation 2 is still a great version to try out. And here's a Capcom classic, This is Mega Man Anniversary Collection. This collection has Mega Man 1 to 8 and also 2 Mega Man arcade games that are lots of fun. The arcade games are Mega Man The Power Battle and Mega Man 2 The Power Fighters. Those are amazing games, I finished both and they are extremely fun, but we gotta unlock them in this collection. They are not available from the start. So I decided to capture Mega Man 8 for this video because it's the most advanced game among the first 8. And this game actually is a disappointment because this version, the PlayStation 2 version, runs at 480i, which doesn't make any sense. This game should run either in 240p or 480p, but because it runs in 480i, the image loses a lot of sharpness more than it should. The games in this collection are amazing, but I wouldn't recommend the PlayStation 2 version of these games, especially if you're playing on modern displays. And now a classic that is adored by many fans. This is Resident Evil 4. And this game does run in 480p, and in order to do so, you gotta hold the X and triangle buttons while booting the console. Some PlayStation 2 games don't have the 480p option in the menu, they only run with progressive signal this way. Regarding the game itself, my current thoughts are the following. Between playing the classic or the remake, I would rather play the remake. The classic version feels quite dated in terms of controls nowadays, at least for me. It still looks great, it features an amazing presentation, but the gameplay flows much better in the remake.
La campana. Es hora de rezar. Tenemos que irnos.
Now my favorite PS2 game, this is Shadow of the Colossus. In my opinion, one of the best games of all time. This game features an amazing world to explore, its art direction is phenomenal, both in terms of visuals, audio, and cutscenes, and I love the sense of freedom and isolation that this game offers. The battles against the Colossi are lots of fun. And I recorded this game running in 480p, and the performance was awful, really bad. So I would definitely recommend you play the remastered version on the PS3 or the remake on the PS4. Now a game that is not that popular but feels very special. Clock Tower 3. It's a Capcom survival horror that looks amazing for its time. Check it out. Even though this game only runs in 480i, its visuals look really good, especially in comparison to Resident Evil Code Veronica, considering that both feature the same style of gameplay and camera. During cutscenes, this game is super well directed and very unique. And this game pays attention to a detail that I almost never see in games. Doors open only one way, not both ways. Check it out. This is a game that is still in my backlog, so I only captured the beginning of gameplay for this video, but I'm already impressed with what I saw.
Where's the sound coming from? Who's doing that?
Now, a charismatic JRPG. Rogue Galaxy. It features great visuals with cartoon-style characters, beautiful scenarios to explore. Combat is not turn-based, it takes place in real time, and I know that not everyone enjoys turn-based combat, that's why I'm mentioning this. And this is a game that is also available for the PlayStation 4. I think it's easier to play it on the PS4. Still, great game, good recommendation for you guys. Now another RPG, one that remains stuck on the PlayStation 2. It never had any re-releases. This is Grandia 3. Unlike Grandia 1 and 2, which were multi-platform and had re-releases, Grandia 3 came out exclusively on the PlayStation 2 and was never re-released. But I imagine that eventually it will appear on modern platforms, since Grandia 1 and 2 did get re-released. The physical media of this game is really cool, really special, with this beautiful effect on the cover. Also, this is a game that comes in 2 discs, 2 DVDs, something very rare for PlayStation 2 games, which actually is an interesting contrast in relation to the PlayStation 1, which had several games using more than one CD. Now a game that is basically a 3D version of Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts. This is Maximo Ghosts to Glory. And the disc of this game looks very different. It's because it's a CD, not a DVD. Check it out. This game is very difficult to the point that initially I didn't know how to activate the checkpoints, seriously. To activate them, we gotta double jump and follow the double jump with a strong attack. Visually, this game is beautiful, even though it only runs in 480i. Now a game from one of my favorite fighting franchises, Soul Calibur 3. Soul Calibur games usually are very impressive in terms of visuals and soundtrack. And they usually feature scenarios that are really cool, both in terms of graphics and layouts. Soul Calibur 3 has a really interesting story mode. I played Maxi's campaign for this capture and it was lots of fun. During the character campaigns we get to choose our own path, make decisions on what to do next, and the gameplay is lots of fun, it's awesome.
Damn it! What the hell's going on?
And something curious about this game is the fact that my copy is a Japanese copy and it played completely in English. I thought it would play only in Japanese. And this is a game you can play in 480p, and to do so, again, you gotta hold X and triangle when booting the game up, just like I mentioned with Resident Evil 4.
You win! Like that? That's called getting whooped.
A game that I had to include in this showcase is this one, Silent Hill 2. Not only because it's an amazing game and one that is really important for the industry, but also because it features one of the most iconic visuals of the PlayStation 2, this super thick fog that is super characteristic of this game. It also features a very intense film grain effect. And something interesting about Silent Hill 2 on the PS2 is that it's very unique with its fog. No later versions feature fogs in the same way that this PlayStation 2 version does. And now the best-selling game of the PlayStation 2, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Oh shit, here we go again. Worst place in the world, Rolling Heights baller country. And I ain't represented Grove Street in 5 years, but the ballers won't give a shit.
And I find this version of the game very charming.
Ain't nothing dope about the Grove, man.
It's a fantastic representation of the PlayStation 2 look. Take a look at the jagged edges, the motion blur, and the game, of course, is incredible.
Nice car, Smoke.
You know me. It's not cut. Keep the value and keep it real.
And now a different game, definitely not popular. This is Mana Khemia. I can't say much about it because it's still in my backlog. But visually it's simple and also very charismatic, and it has a very interesting cover with a horizontal artwork instead of a vertical one. And now a game that is beloved by many. It's an acclaimed franchise in the gaming industry. This is Metal Gear Solid 2, which I recorded using the Substance version, which has extras compared to the Sons of Liberty version.
The effects of the anesthetic round will vary depending on what part of the body is hit. We're talking about a different...
This is a game that, at least for me, has a huge barrier to entry. The gameplay is very different compared to current standards, and it also leaves you on your own to learn what to do, how to perform even basic actions. Something that I admit a lot of old school games do, and something that I usually enjoy, but with Metal Gear Solid 2 it's harder than normal, at least for me, to get into the gameplay, but one day I'll play it properly. This game features amazing cutscenes, and this game, it's really good for a comparison between the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. So here's the game running both on the PlayStation 2 and the OG Xbox. The Xbox footage was recorded with a RetroTink 5X, but still it's very representative of the Xbox look, so check it out. Hopefully I'll be able to record a dedicated Xbox showcase, and in the meantime, I recommend you watch my PlayStation 3 showcase. I hope you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, and I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you very much for watching.